Today's episode of the Energy Newsbeat podcast is brought to you by Enverus. The energy industry faces massive challenges every day, and the events over the last 2 years have caused huge disruptions like never before. Companies in the energy industry need actionable intelligence and a single source of truth that brings all the data together. Enverus is the energy specialized technology partner that provides intelligent connections for a global energy ecosystem. Only Enverus has the analytics, people, experience, and industry scope to connect the right data and information in the right way to discover missed opportunities and deliver fast outcomes. Find out more at Enverus.com. That's ENVERUS.com.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Today is not only a fantastic day, it's one of my most treasured days, and that's a podcast on the Energy Newsbeat podcast. My name's Stu Turley, President and CEO, and I've got one of my most favorite people on the planet. We've got Steve Reese. He's the president of Reese Consulting and Reese Training, And thank you for stopping by, Steve. I just really appreciate everything you got going on.
Well, it's great to be here. And of course, our life starts in 6 days because of this.
Okay, I got to show this off.
Yeah.
We got to have another bet. I think I won $1 off of you last year, right?
You did, and we'll just go double or nothing. How's that?
Oh, absolutely. But this is actually my dad's mug from, I believe it was 56, somewhere around in there when he graduated. So, hey. I'm not only just a two-time kind of guy. My granddad was also there too. So
that's awesome.
I got
that's
some
awesome
in there. But Steve, the whole thing about Oklahomans having this Bedlam rivalry is huge. I love OU. I mean, I love having this rivalry, except when we play.
Understood. Well, it keeps everything interesting around here, and obviously, I don't know if it will continue, with OU going the SEC. And I just wish to heaven that they would keep that somehow. But if not, we can still both hate the Longhorns at the same time. So
even though I do have Texas plates on, I will always root for OU in that game. So
there you go.
All right, we've got a lot of great things to talk about, Steve. And I'll tell you, in our world that we have on this energy crisis, it was a self-inflicted wound worldwide on printing money for, you take a look at, you can't print money for energy projects that are not technologically capable of delivering the lowest cost kilowatt per hour. And now we need natural gas all over the world. And Reese Consulting is a consulting dynamite house in the natural gas space. So I'm teeing it up. Tell us what you got going on, Steve.
Well, I appreciate that. We've, of course, historically, we have worked for a lot of independent producers here in the lower 48 with respect to marketing their gas, doing their midstream deals. Right now, in that vein, we're working in the Marcellus, we're working in the Eagle Ford and the Anadarko, the Haynesville, pretty much every basin still, which is our bread and butter.
Right.
We're also beginning to look at getting back into the asset ownership space. We have our eyes on some midstream and some ENP assets that we're looking to potentially acquire.
Right.
And then in the last 6 months, we have begun getting involved in LNG exporting.
Nice.
And tell you a little story about those. On the larger side, I've become partners with a group of fellows that are all ex-European, really high finance guys. My partners right now reside in London and Barcelona and Martha's Vineyard and maybe Mars. I'm not sure, but we've got it covered.
We need to go on a trip here, man.
Absolutely.
Since I went to OSU, I'll carry your bags. I'm not even just to go with you. So
well, we're excited. What we're doing is, of course, my team has very good relationships with the larger producers here in the lower 48. Our our plan right now is my partners are guys that have very strong relationships, specifically in Germany with respect to the large industrial end users, the large data centers, even some of the municipalities. Two of them have children, adult children that live in municipalities there, and they have financed gas. One of the guys was actually one of the ones that was involved in the early financing in Nord Stream.
Wow.
So we're also close to doing a deal for an FSRU, a floating regasification facility that we look at putting outside of Germany. And so that's one project that we're working on. And actually my partners are going to Germany in 2 weeks to meet with some of the large industrial users where they have board level contacts. Another project we're working with the folks in Belgium and Bulgaria on the small ISO containers of LNG, which only hold about 950 MMBTU, but we're going to look at sourcing those out of Jacksonville, Florida, of Pivotal's liquefaction plant there. We're working on our numbers right now and our agreements. So all of a sudden, we are working on some export possibilities. Really having a lot of fun. My staff has to have a lot of kudos right now because they're carrying the ball on our domestic projects, and while I'm kind of chasing this stuff across the water. So
Steve,
as you can tell,
amazing.
One of my partner's daughter just came back from Stuttgart and said, "Dad, people are going to die in Germany this winter because they're going to be allocating gas and power, and it's going to be bad." And so obviously there's an altruistic piece of this as well, other than we all like to make money. But the key for us is to exploit our Western Europe relationships back here to my team's relationships to the producers in the Haynesville and the Marcellus and the Anadarko, where we can pick up volumes in the Gulf Coast and transport them over there and take them all the way on shore. So it's a process. Our goal is to be moving some molecules in January of 2024. And so, we're sounds like a long time, but we're moving towards some high level meetings in Germany and actually in Spain and Italy too. So it's a lot of fun. And
that is really cool.
We're having, we're just seeming to continue to grow. I've added about 5 staff positions this year as well, just to keep with the domestic stuff. So the Lord's blessed us in a big way this year.
Isn't that fabulous? That is fantastic. You brought up about 19 things and my head's spinning because you mentioned, we know that people are going to die because of the decisions that have been made on the energy crisis. They became too reliant, and then Russia stepped in, and they're trying to get everything that they can do, and putting a floating degasification out there. How long does that take? 2 years? I mean, does it take a year?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the build, literally from soup to nuts, a build process is about 2 years. Now we're working with a group that's involved in that has, I believe, one ready and another one being built, and we're looking to basically either rent one facility or a portion of one facility for our needs. Our initial goal in 2024 is a 10-year deal for 50 billion cubic feet per year, and then we want to ramp up from there each year. We feel like we can fill those commitments in 2024 with our first kind of tier 1 end users in Germany. So such as automobile manufacturers, you can guess who that is. The data centers over there, some of the large end users, and actually We have some documents already from a U.S. producer that we're taking to a meeting over there in 2 weeks to begin discussions actually with some communities, with some decent size municipalities.
Nice. Because that's so needed. Now, I got a question for you on contracts, because didn't the EU go to a market thing, and instead of long-term contracts, they went to almost a market, they threw that up on the side? Are you putting all these things into longer-term contracts?
Well, what's happened, Stuart, is, as you can imagine, is obviously gas prices here now, at the Gulf now are approaching $10. But when you look at the index that's beginning to be used a lot in Europe is a TTF index.
Right.
And that index has blown way past, $100. And so obviously as a U.S. producer, there's a lot of attraction to take a portion of their portfolio and have balanced domestic pricing with European pricing.
Right.
Understanding that obviously things can change. But at this point, that is the type of scenario that's being bandied about on our game plan. And we've looked at fixed pricing and some other things. We're just not sure that would fly. The Germans at this point are relatively excited about even a fixed price in the $15 to $20 range.
Wow.
But between the cost of liquefaction, transportation, regasification, and then inlet transport into Germany, you need a larger spread. So we've got a model from one of the large investment firms in London that is one of our partners. And we're developing models right now to present to the U.S. producers.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, this is what a timely kind of a thing. Now, backing up to the U.S. market, we've been seeing for a while that this may be turning, LNG or just natural gas, nat gas, as a seasonal product to no longer a seasonal, but going to like oil, a world market. Are we seeing that in the U.S. now?
There's no doubt that the LNG export demand has changed the game, because, as you know, as a 40-year veteran of marketing natural gas, we're entering what are called shoulder months, which basically mean very low demand, right? I mean, it's not hot, too hot. I mean, the heat is subsiding on the West Coast, which fills the summer air conditioning market. And then, of course, November, we start the drawdown and we get into the winter months. We're going into September, October, normally the two lowest priced months of the year, and we're approaching $10.
The seasonality that I've been writing about and everything else is gone. I mean, it's going away. So you used to have the time where you could build up supply at a lower price to get ready for winter. That's part of the problem with, the EU right now. They don't have it, and Asia's buying everything they possibly can. Are you seeing anything in the midstream space up in the Marcellus trying to help the takeaway there? Because they're still having some pipeline problems up there, aren't they?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. We're working on a project for a new producer, and the dry window of the Marcellus that is we're designing the gathering systems. My guys are up there this week. We're going to be making the pipeline taps into the major pipelines. And one of them that we want to tap into is Mountain Valley. And of course, that was part of the reconciliation where Manchin has been promised that they'll finish that. There's just a small portion of the pipe that needs to get finished. And we're close. We want to actually tap into that pipe right in that area. The Marcellus needs more takeaway. I know Toby Price at EQT preaches about it, every week, as does our team. And so we'll see how those things go. I don't really believe this administration is that anti-natural gas. I think there is some just some talk about it with respect to appeasing their base. But I think at the end of the day, the Biden administration actually, in their heart of hearts, understands the natural gas space. It is a clean fuel and it's needed. And I think we'll get past these hurdles. Where there's also some things that need to be done into these liquefaction ports in the Gulf, such as Venture Global's Plaquemines and some other spots coming on. Some of the transportation coming out of North Louisiana needs to be buffeted up a little bit and maybe expanded to fill those needs. And as we've done out of the Permian. So I think that's coming along, and I think we'll be fine.
The demand for worldwide LNG, all the Cheniers and everybody else that can, they can possibly sell everything they possibly can. How do we get ramped up in our production for additional trains, for additional facilities to get around those not get around, but get them approved sooner to expand to worldwide LNG? It's going to be around for years. This crisis is not going to go away overnight. It's going to be years in trying to get the solutions done.
I think one thing, hopefully obviously in coming out of COVID in 2020, where the energy firms, the public firms took such a hard hit and were losing billions of dollars.
Right.
And now their investors in Wall Street says, we don't want you to put all that back in a drill bit. We'd like for you to return dividends and things to shareholders. With these prices where they're getting today, I think that the tide is going to turn. When you have $80, $90, $100 oil and $10 natural gas, it makes way too much sense to drill. And I think what we'll see if the LNG market continues to explode, which it sure will this winter, is that the dry gas areas of the Marcellus and the Haynesville will continue to move forward, and they'll keep drilling. We've been on a lot of those locations, and we've been in some this year in the Marcellus for another large client, and some of those wells come on large volumes, 10, 20, 30 million cubic feet per day per well.
Wow.
And I mean, just you have well pads that can do a tenth of a BCF a day, and it's just an amazing amazing reserves, real nice dry gas. And it seems funny how our business is beginning to more migrate towards there, because that's where the needs are. And we're our brand, I think, has been very fortunate that my staff's reputation is come a long way and carried a lot of water for a lot of these producers.
Well, I'll tell you, when we sit back and take a look, it's nice having competent employees, and you don't have any OSU guys on your staff, do you?
I got all kinds. There's no telling. We got a whole team of knuckleheads just like the boss here. But the thing is, people ask about our staff, and I said, well, about our experience, I said, well, just look on the website, because everybody's hair is the same color as mine.
Oh, hey, now you're rubbing it in. Not only is OU always kicking OSU's bahunkus, now you got hair. Okay, now you're laying it down on me here.
I'll take what I can get, brother. I don't care. I don't care what color it is. It could be purple, like some of the kids I see in college.
Oh yeah. Hey, when we sit here and take a look at what's going on with, the investments, you nailed it. I think you've really hit it out of the park, that investors are saying, hey, wait a minute, we can now make money. And I think that there is a turn towards really, there is a movement realizing we have to have nat gas. I mean, we're not going to get to carbon net zero without carbon capture, without nat gas, without nuclear. And so, the big evil thing, I think there is a chink in that armor for it coming through. But are you guys involved with the trying to help articulate the it's the ESG or friendly gas or our the ESG type.
Responsibly sourced gas.
Thank you. That was too tough for me to even say.
Yeah, we've been approached. We really haven't. I'm still not exactly sure the definition of that, but
I can't say it, so
But we are seeing, we've got two, and another reason I'd like to talk to some of your contacts is I have clients with two really nice natural gas drilling prospects.
Right.
That have been fully vetted with 3D. They're in great areas.
Right.
One of my guys has already raised about 40 million, which will cover maybe part of the first pad, and we're going to put in the gathering and everything in the pipeline taps. But
Nice.
I'm seeing these prospects pop up again, and as we've seen the private equity guys scurry away like chickens in a storm, I think you may see some begin to come back, some other individual investors. But I'll give you an example. One of my longtime clients in Oklahoma had been very successful, and their sponsor got nervous after COVID, and they forced them to sell at a huge discount when oil was about $35 and gas was $1.80. If they had held on to that investment now. It's just, people need to quit panicking over commodities and production, because I've seen this roller coaster 5 or 6 times in 40 years. And at the end of the day, it's normally a pretty dang good investment.
I'll tell you what, Steve, I've been writing a lot for a lot of different things, and all the research that I am finding, the greener we go, as Jay Young says, he calls it greener. We're never going to go away from using oil and gas. We do need to use more renewables. We need to use everything we can. That's a given. But as we move forward, the U.S. oil and gas people are the cleanest in the world. Canada is the cleanest in the world. Why do we want to buy from folks that are not producing as ESG friendly as the U.S. Oil teams? You should want to buy from us. Buy from Americans, because we are doing it right. Isn't that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so. I think some of the virtue signaling is wearing thin with a lot of the normal Americans, and I think it's a different world in some areas of our country. Some areas beginning to say we're just going to ban any gasoline powered vehicles. And I don't understand in those places now that are already having issues with blackouts, that they think that they're going to have 35 million people plug their vehicles in at nighttime and keep the lights on. So things tend to, reality at some point sets in.
It's amazing to me that it seems like there's a global great awakening happening. And I think society is really there. I believe going to church is important. I believe that I am, my pastor's always said I'm job security for him because I'm such a mess. So he likes having me around. So you got to, if you don't have a mess around in your pulpit, in your pew, you don't have a job. But I think that there is a great awakening coming around. When you take a look at the farmers in the EU and everything else, they're under attack, and our farmers as well too. We got a great awakening coming around society right now.
I think so. I agree. But we're excited about the future and what we have going on now, and just having a lot of fun. And
isn't that great?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we enjoy playing in all these different basins. For so many years we were just pretty much Anadarko and the Texas Panhandle, and that was about it. And all of a sudden I looked up this year, and we've probably done projects in 7 or 8 states, and so it's a lot of fun.
I am so excited for Reese Consulting and Reese Training, because I'll tell you, it's fun to get to have known. That's an OSU way to talk. over all this time, and it's so cool to be able to see what's transpiring for you, because what that means is a lot of jobs.
Yeah,
Your projects is jobs heavy. I mean, that's pretty darn cool.
it is. It is. Well, I'm sure enjoy coming on, Stuart, and discussing things with you guys, and look forward to continuing anything. Anytime you want to pick up the phone, you know where I am,
You bet.
you're if we get down to Dallas way, the wife and I'd love to come by and buy you a steak.
Oh, well, it's I see. I'm kind of like was it the kid that always had to have the pork chop around their neck? I got to have that for people to come onto my podcast. So I got to buy you a steak just for
No
hanging
problem.
out with me.
I know. Uh, uh, I know where. Oh gosh, I forget my favorite place down there now. Albernays. I know where Albernays is.
Okay, we're on.
Yeah. All
That
right.
sounds fantastic. Thank you for stopping by, Steve.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. Take care.
We'll see you soon.